Hello, everybody. I'm your host, VeggieWagon. To my right here is Airless Balls MTG, and to my left is Cubic Schulz.
I'll take it.
I had a better joke there, but I don't remember what it was. Today, we're going to be talking about every single format that is recognized in Magic the Gathering. There's a lot of them. We're going to tell you why you should or should not be playing them, but there are going to be a couple that we just don't know that much about. So we'll try to speak proportionally on what we do have knowledge on.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a classic podcast episode where three middle-aged guys opine on things they know nothing about for about an hour and a half.
I've seen this one.
It's a rerun, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's start from the top. So what I'm going to do here is if I miss any recognized formats, it's not my fault, it's Moxfield's fault. I'm going down their list of formats from top to bottom. We're going to start with Standard. Standard, what was once Magic's flagship format. This is a 60 card 1v1 with just the most recent couple years of sets, which is now
5
years, right?
It only feels like it. It is actually 3 years.
3 years.
Wilds of Eldraine was printed in 2023, doesn't expire until 2027. So I guess that would be three and a half years. Okay.
I think, yeah.
3 years.
I don't know. I can't tell if Schultz is trying to mess with us.
Me neither.
I just know that it's Schultz, so probably not.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 3 years.
Except for Foundations, which is supposedly around forever, but at least 5 years, whichever comes first.
Yes. How is Standard doing right now?
Not great. They had a big shakeup, and post-ban world where it's Vivi's world, and we're just living in it.
I think to talk about the state of Standard, you need to sort of buckle up. Because ever since the pandemic, Standard has kind of been on life support in one way or another. When the pandemic hit, people stopped collecting cards, people stopped cracking boxes, people stopped playing Limited, and everyone moved online to Arena. And then the pandemic ended, and no one came back to it. And so Wizards has been in the middle of this project to revive Standard for the last couple years with some amount of success. It used to be that Standard would rotate every 2 years. They increased it to 3 years recently, and apparently they increased it to 5 years a little after that, according to Schulz, with the intention of giving people more reason to buy into decks so that they could continue to play the cards that they open for longer to reduce churn. This has had the effect of dramatically increasing the power level of the format, and we have seen some of the most powerful decks ever in Standard. I think the mono red prowess deck, the Monstrous Rage, Slick Shot decks, those could win in almost any format you bring them to. And this is kind of and we're kind of living in the aftermath now, where we had a huge series of bans and a rotation, and the problem is still not solved. It's still imbalanced.
And terribly so. There was a while where the Pioneer deck was 68 of 75 were legal standard played cards. So I've got some numbers. If we want to hear them. Right now we have, first touching on the Arena Championship 9, the 54% VV Cauldron. That seems to be the big issue. The next played deck had 17 fewer copies than the most played deck, which had 20. It is back down to about 30% of the metagame. But we went to 38% of the metagame currently has 4 copies of VV in it.
So to put this in context, usually before these big tournaments, Wizards and Frank Karsten post a graphic with the meta breakdown. And it's like 4 decks on the left-hand side, 4 decks on the right-hand side, and the percentage share of each. This one was 54% Is It Cauldron, and the rest was just other. There were only 2 things because no other deck had a significant share. Everything was just by itself.
And this has just been this way for a while. It is just like, hey, one deck has a larger share than is normal for this format, bans happen, next deck has share that is much larger than normal, repeat, right?
Yeah, so after the release of Tarkir Dragonstorm, the most popular decks in the format were... Sorry, Hammy. After...
Hey, guys. Hamlet.
Hammy really doesn't like Corey Stillcutter.
Nope.
You're not an aggro player, baby?
Yeah, so after the release of Tarkir Dragonstorm, the most popular decks in the format were Is It Prowess with Corey Steelcutter, that absolutely bonkers busted Magic card, playing some number of copies of Vivi, and there were the mono red decks that mopped up on it by playing 3 or 4 copies of Magebane Lizard in the main deck. And there was also an Omniscience combo deck, all of which were probably too powerful for a standard that people want to play. And complicating this was that all of these bans came at the same time as a rotation, so Wizards left a few decks untouched, in particular the Is It Cauldron deck that is dominating the format. And if you're not familiar, Agatha Soul Cauldron is a 2-mana artifact that lets you tap and exile a card from a graveyard. If that card's a creature card, you can put a +1/+1 counter on a target creature you control, and all creatures you control with +1/+1 counters gain the activated abilities of all cards exiled with Soul Cauldron. So if you put a VV in your graveyard and you exile it with Soul Cauldron, any creature you have with a +1/+1 counter on it gains that VV ability. So if you put a big creature in play with a counter on it, it can just generate 8 or 9 mana that you can spend on whatever you please. Immediately. And when you copy that with effects like Voldaran Thrillseeker, they'll let you fling it at the opponent, or the new Warp card, the 5/5 flyer that you can put in for 2 mana. All of these things to allow you to do degenerate things in Standard, and the answers are just not good enough to deal with it. So either you have boatloads of removal, and you can deal with VV every single time it hits the board and leaves the graveyard, and anytime another creature hits the board, or you're playing VV and you're steamrolling your opponents on turns 2 or 3.
Especially the last 2 are like commander level bullshit. Of I'm gonna cheat Omniscience into play. That's viable in that. Hey, I'm gonna put VV in a soup. Like that's also very viable, and for those to be available to players in what is the smallest card pool format constructed is kind of nuts.
Definitely. The symptom of the additional time, the 2 to 3 years that
7 years that cards are legal in Standard now.
It feels like that's what they were trying to tackle. The last or the earliest set that's legal right now is the Wilds of Eldraine, and they banned 3 cards from it in the last ban announcement. So they kind of tried to rotate it out early. The only other card really played from that is Torch the Tower. And it's
Cauldron, right? Was Cauldron?
Yes.
Well, yeah.
It's a fringe playable.
Okay.
I mean, hey, look, it's probably catching the ban soon anyway, but okay. You have to have an answer for this question.
7.
What is the reason to play Standard? Because we've said an awful lot of discouraging things about it, but I think there is still a lot of merit in this format.
The format's rotated. It's no longer the same format. When I got into Magic, I stepped in with Modern and then immediately jumped to Standard as the affordable alternative. I met new people. I had just moved to a new town. I knew nobody. It was wonderful. It was team building. It was LGS. It was community. It was the gathering. And you could brew. It was fun. The card pool is small enough that you could play fringe cards. Even during Jeskai Black era, you could play sacrifice a green or white creature because everybody played Mantis Rider or Siege Rhino. Like fringe cards and brewing is so flexible. You get to do the thing and you get to brew on a consistency basis within a card pool. It makes me feel smart.
I should have clarified. So what reasons are there to play Standard now?
Yeah, none of those cards are legal in Standard at the moment. Yep. Which is crazy because of the 10-year window that cards are legal in Standard now.
All right, somebody else go. I'll think of why you should play it now. I don't have a good reason for now.
I'll elaborate on some of that. So since it's a rotating format, theoretically, the metagame is changing constantly, and that can be a lot of fun because it does allow for a portion of time where brewing is very relevant. It means that you always have new things to learn and adapt to. It's like, even though the recent like state of it has had a very clear and defined best deck, that is a new deck for you to learn if you were deciding to play it, and that is a new challenge to figure out how to defeat if you're brewing against it. And that is just going to always be the cycle, even if it is more balanced, and in fact more so when it is more balanced. That's a unique challenge that I don't believe exists in a lot of other formats.
Yeah, I think I have two things. The standard in general is the most accessible format that you can get into if you're trying to get into 2-player 60-card Magic. You know that you're only going to deal with the last 15 years of sets, and in that time, there's only going to be so many mechanics that you need to know. Each card is going to have certain abilities. It's generally going to be a lower power level than the other formats, although that's not so much the case right now. And that means that you can get into the format without a whole lot of upfront mental cost of needing to figure out 20 different decks and what you need to be prepared for at your local metagame. If you go to play Standard, it's very rare that any FNM or RCQ is going to have more than 5 or 6 serious decks in it. So that can decrease the mental load. It can make it more accessible for you to play if you're otherwise scared about playing a 60-card format. The other specific thing about Standard right now is that I think VV really is the only problem. Like if VV and Enduring Curiosity get banned, specifically, I think that the rest of the format is pretty close on power level, and there are a lot of viable things to do.
Yeah, sounds right coming from the Omni player.
Look, when the ban list came out, people were like, "Oh, Airball, I know you're going to get your way, and Monstrous Rage is going to be banned, but I think they're going to need to ban Omni." I'm like, "Of course they're going to need to ban Omni. Like, there's no good reason to have Omniscience in Standard. That will never make people happy. It's never going to be used in a fair way." But you're going to there's Tifa Landfall decks, there's Sephiroth Aristocrat Sacrifice decks. Yeah. There's a ton of different things that all attack on cool axes that just aren't quite powerful enough to deal with VV and Enduring Curiosity right now.
Yeah.
And once those things are gone, I think Standard's going to be in a great place. So why not get started now?
Mm-hmm. I'll actually offer one more too, is that this is the only paper format that is 100% also on Arena. I believe is correct.
100%.
Yes, that's right.
Constructed format is also 100% on Arena. So if you want to be able to grind a format, if you want to be able to get practice games in whenever you want, then this is the best format to be able to do that, aside from one other, which we will get to, because it's like, great, I want to learn a new deck. I can jam out a bunch of games on Arena to get a feel for it. Let me switch to another one. You get as much of that format as you want between being able to play it exactly on Arena and in paper. Yeah.
There's also MTGO.
Never heard of it. Next on the list is Future Standard. I only mentioned this because I said I was going through Moxfield's list of formats. I think this just means Standard after the next rotation.
They finally added it. I remember I messaged them on Blue Sky saying, "Hey, wouldn't it be nice if there was a Future Standard format on Moxfield?" And they said that they were going to add it, and I guess they finally did.
For you?
Yeah.
Oh, is that what it means then? Is just looking forward to the next rotation of Standard?
I assume it's probably just what is legal in Standard minus the stuff that will rotate.
Cool. I don't think we need to speak much on this format at all, since it's not. I think it only exists as as theory crafting, and I don't think there's anyone that plays this actively. But
that is not quite true. Speaking of Magic Online, when rotation happens on Magic Online, it doesn't happen all at once. There is a period where the old cards rotate out and the new cards rotate in afterwards. Or maybe I have that backwards, one way or the other. But it doesn't happen atomically. So for like a week there on Magic Online, you have access to a different format
Is Schulz is making a face.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that there's like the first weekend of a format on Magic Online is typically either adds all the new cards and doesn't remove all the old ones, or removes all the old ones and doesn't add all the new ones.
Oh, for pre-release on MTGO, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Oh, so there's like a week of weirdness.
It's not a real thing. It is standard. It's just they incorrectly implement standard for a few days.
So the next one on the list is historic. An arena only format that is most of the cards that have ever been on. I don't actually know what the cutoff is, but my understanding is it's most of the cards that have ever been printed on Arena.
But not the Arena edit cards.
No, that you're thinking Timeless.
That is Timeless. So this is all of the real Magic cards that are on Arena.
This is every card that is on Arena, except if it has an alchemy alternative or an adjusted alternative.
Oh, okay.
Which is then legal as long as it hasn't been banned.
Gotcha. Okay, yes. So this is every card that is in Arena that also exists in paper.
Right. Except that you couldn't play the paper version of Minsk and Boo, but you can play the alchemy version of Minsk and Boo in Historic.
Okay. Oh, gotcha. So the adjusted, like the buffed and nerfed cards,
yes,
are in that format in place of the originals.
Exactly.
Gotcha. I have not played much of this format. I think for the exact reason that I liked Standard being the same. I just like to be able to maximize my time. So if I have the choice between playing an arena only format and a format that is analogous at least to a paper format, then I prefer that. So I just didn't play much of this. Either of you?
I played a little bit of it. Once the alchemy cards started trickling in, I remember I played my Jun Sack deck and went to block with the Cauldron's Familiar, and I couldn't. And I think that's like the last time I played.
Yes, that was like an early nerf card, right?
Yeah, I did a little bit of Muxus, a little bit of Jun Sack, and then it hit, and I was like, oh, no, I don't. I want my cards to, come back after a few months and know what they do.
Yeah. Historic for me is the look how they massacred my boy, the format, because it used to be my favorite way to play Magic. And I think it suffers a little bit from never really having a clear direction. Historic only really existed because they needed to find a way to solve the rotation problem with Arena. So Arena started, by the time rotation rolled around, eventually you were going to have cards that people paid for that you couldn't play with in any format whatsoever. They were just going to be inaccessible in the client. And so that wasn't an acceptable solution. And so they created Historic as a format where you could go play with those cards. And that had the whole double wildcard redemption drama way back in the day. So they were going to say that if you wanted to craft cards from non-standard sets, they would actually cost double the number of wildcards to make. But all that was well and good because the format I thought was very well balanced and it was fun. Like generally the answers kept up with the threats for the most part. I thought the cards that they added in the historic anthologies were very good. They breathed fresh life into the format. And then came the alchemy cards and more specifically the nerfed versions of cards. And that really kind of ruined the format for me, particularly when they added the specialized cards. I think that was the last straw. When they had these alchemy versions of cards that you could play, and you could play them in any one of like 5 different modes.
Oh, right, because it was the Baldur's Gate set, which did not have like some of those cards were just totally different functionally from their paper counterparts.
Exactly. Yep. And there was also, speaking of your Cauldron Familiar case earlier, where the cat all of a sudden couldn't block. Well, how about the case where the World Championship of Magic was part standard, part historic, because it was played on Arena, and the card Luminarch Aspirant was legal in both formats and did different things in both formats. So if you played a Luminarch Aspirant in Standard, it worked differently than if you played the same card in the historic format, and it was in a meta deck in both of them.
Well, are there reasons to play Historic now? The one that I can think of, because Schulz, you kind of mentioned it, is there are some decks that don't exist anywhere else other than Historic, I think, like Muxus. is a deck that cannot exist anywhere else, either because the card is not legal in those formats, or the power level is too high for a deck like that to function. This is a middle ground where there are some unique decks like that you can't get anywhere else.
Definitely. Jim Davis is a huge fan of Historic. Pushes around. I said you can brew in Standard. He thinks that Historic is the brewer's paradise. I just can't do it without the reliability.
I think Jim has changed his tune a little bit on Historic as well, which should give you some idea of how much the format has languished in that time. Jim did used to absolutely love the format and was, preaching to everyone who would listen that Historic is the best format on Arena. You should be playing it. And he even loved the Alchemy cards. Just the direction of the format seems to have been totally lost. As far as what the reason to play Historic is, it's an Eternal format where there's no fetches. At least in theory, the Alchemy cards that come out with every set should change the format. Wizards can nerf cards, which is one of the big selling points. So if a deck is doing too well and it's oppressive, you can change the text box on the card, which is something that you ordinarily can't do. There are mechanics in Historic that you can't implement well in paper, like what's it called? Perpetual. So cards that can have their actual traits, like you could physically write on that particular piece of cardboard, which you couldn't do in real life. All of those are mechanically interesting, and there's a lot of design space. I just wish they would use it. Generally, they haven't been willing to make changes or print new innovative designs in the format. And Timeless seems to be the way that you're supposed to play with all of your old Arena cards now.
Hey, thanks for that segue. Our next format is Timeless. The difference between this and Historic being, because both of those are Arena-only formats, Timeless is actually everything that's ever been printed on it, but it has a ban list. Is that right?
As far as I know, Timeless has no ban list.
Oh, wow.
There is a restricted list.
Okay.
So cards like Channel, you're only allowed to have one copy of, but nothing is hard banned.
Wow. Okay. But so then it is everything that's been printed onto the client?
Except if for whatever reason you wanted to play an Alchemy version of a card.
Oh, you have to play the original versions. Yes. Okay.
Unless that card only exists in Alchemy and has no paper version, and then you can play it.
Got it, of course.
Unless...
I was really hoping there was another one.
Well, no, it's Arena's version of Vintage, and that appeals to a large audience. A lot of the cards that you see in Vintage are played there. You've got your Bowmasters, your the Breaches. It's a paradise for Eternal gamers.
Yeah, there's definitely fun in the feeling of no holds barred, aside from Channel. People love being able to play with everything, no matter how broken it is. And I think that's a big appeal for it. I can only assume, because I have not played this format at all.
I haven't played a ton of it either. The last time I played any Historic, Scam was still a thing. That was the dominant thing. You had Thoughtseize and Reanimate Grief, and it was terrorizing Timeless in the same way that it was terrorizing Modern. But there are cool cards. There's like Show and Tell. So like I know Show and Tell put Omni into play is a thing, where it's a lot easier to deal with in Timeless than it was in Standard. You have a bunch of free spells, which generally aren't a thing in Historic either. So you have the Pitch Elementals are cards you can cast for free. You have the Modern Horizons cards that are on Arena. Those are in Timeless as well. I think you now have Force of Negation now, where I don't think you have that in Historic. Generally a much higher power level. Anything goes. You even have Oko.
Ooh.
That's a whole different podcast. That's probably a two-parter. That one card.
Yeah. I mean, Timeless, I think, is one that we have a little less experience on. Luckily, the next one on the Moxfield list, we all have so much experience with. It's a format called Gladiator. I have no idea what this format is. I have never heard of it before. I've never seen anyone play it. I've never seen anyone reference it.
I think I saw Russell Crowe play it one time.
Ooh, then I think I'd rather not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do either of you know anything about the Gladiator format?
Zero. I have never heard of it before.
Cool. That's going to wrap everything for the Gladiator format. If anybody out there does play this actively, can you please let us know what it is, what it's like, what's in the meta, if you think it's a good format or not, et cetera, because I think of everything on this whole list, this will be the one that we know the least about.
I would hope so. We know literal nothing. It's hard to know less than that.
Have you ever tried?
I guess we'll see.
I do it all the time. Our next one, we're going to move quite to the opposite end of the spectrum, is Pioneer.
Look how they massacred my boy. Pioneer, my favorite format. It is a non-rotating set, or is a non-rotating format with all the cards back to Return to Ravnica legal, excluding the fetch lands and other cards that are banned. And it is, I think, in an excellent place right now, notwithstanding the fact that there are no competitive tournaments scheduled for it. We didn't get any RCQ season for it this year. Mm-hmm. It's unclear whether and when we will get anything for it next year. And the problem is that the more sets that we print and the longer we leave Pioneer behind, the more likely it is to just get abandoned altogether, which worries me. But the one thing I love about Pioneer, other than it has my favorite deck in it, is that all of the things we were complaining about in Standard, all of those high power level cards, you would think the Pioneer with access to a wider card pool would be more powerful. And it is, but it's not faster, because Pioneer has access to a bunch of answers that are much more efficient than what's available to you in Standard. You have cards that are capable of trading tempo to deal with more cardboard, or trading cardboard to get more tempo to mitigate being on the draw versus being on the play. Those things don't exist in Standard, so you don't get steamrolled quite as much.
And this format, all three of us have played at least a bit. When it was actively the competitive format, I was messing around with it and had a really good time. I don't know. I don't think I know enough about the competitive formats to decidedly say that it was because of the format itself, or that I just enjoyed being able to get into a competitive 1v1 format. But it was really, really affordable for me to get into the format. I did not choose one of the better decks, but I chose one that could be competitive. I top 8'd RCQs more often than not on a deck that cost me maybe $50. And so I think that's, I don't know if that is still, if there are still affordable decks to that degree in the format, but that was a huge plus to me.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. The other thing that makes it more affordable than something like Standard is that it's non-rotating. So generally, if you build a deck of a particular archetype, you can expect that archetype to continue to be supported more or less, unless you're Schulz. Schulz has had some bad experiences with the Pioneer ban list, but if you built Blue-White Control, that is mostly the same deck that it's always been. If you built Mono-Red Aggro, that is mostly the same deck that it's always been. If you played Lotus Field Control, that is mostly the same deck that it's always been.
Mm-hmm. If you build Mono Blue Spirits, it's definitely the same deck that it's always been.
Yep. So as long as you're not building the decks that Schulz plays, you have a good expectation of stability there.
Yeah, I think that I was not sold on Pioneer, as it had replaced Legacy as my favorite format in the team trios. And when we were in Vegas, Airball says, no universes beyond, no commander product. And I was like, oh, I am so sold. It is so pure what Magic is supposed to be. It is fantastic. A lot of the stuff gets a little bit degenerate if you're looking at Lotus Field, which still is, I want to say, relatively budget, right? You can get a Lotus Field deck for $120.
I think if you're going to do the Grazer version of Lotus Field, then yes. If you're going to do the Bant version of Lotus Field, now all of a sudden you're talking about mana confluences, and the mana base gets significantly more expensive and all of that.
This got a reprint. It should be like down to $5 now, right?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
That plus starting towns, sees no play. I mean, the format is fantastic. Really no complaints other than the bannings do hit a little bit harder because you do rely on that stability for a non-rotating.
Yeah, I mean, you especially rely on that stability if you have a regional championship coming up in, say, like a week, and you really want to make sure that players who have invested in their deck and practiced with it all season can expect it to be playable when they get there, right?
They have changed the ban cadence to do that, and this year they have not banned any Pioneer cards.
Yeah, I wonder why that is.
Go figure, yeah.
But I want to be clear here. So like, I don't think I know enough about the history of the format to say this has happened frequently. But Schulz, specifically, you had decks that you were preparing for that had vital pieces of them banned just before important events, right?
Unfortunately, that is correct. Yeah. So Inverter, Mono Green, and Amalia all got the axe. And I think those are 3 of 4 decks that were ever banned in the format. So
okay. So this is not necessarily a common occurrence. Just ask Schulz what deck he's playing and don't go with that one. But otherwise,
the mono green one, I hated that deck. That deck made me so sad. Mm-hmm. Even I think that it was bullshit. Like, it was literally like, I don't know, like 2 weeks before the regional championship, and Wizards decides that they want to ban Karn, which is like, yes, absolutely do that. It is a terrible scourge on the format. Don't do it right before don't do it right before the event when people need to scramble and find a new deck and all the new cards and practice all their new lines. I felt so bad for Schulz.
Yeah. But it sounds like of everything we've said so far, which is not that many, but I would go so far as to guess that this is one of the formats that we would agree is the healthiest. Is like the things that it's missing are not gameplay related. The things that it's missing are having like competitive support. And hopefully a promise of no more of emergency bannings before that affect you in that way.
Yes, with the asterisk that part of the reason that it seems healthy might be because there is no competitive format. So it's not worth people putting a bunch of time into figuring out where the truly degenerate combos are in the format. Generally, when you had these big competitive scenes, teams would show up, pros would show up to tournaments, and they'd say, okay, here's what I've been working on. Here's what we've been working on for the last month. That's how vampires turned out to be a thing.
Right.
That eventually got banned. That was like Jim Davis's team came out of nowhere with Vein Ripper.
I remember that, yeah.
And the price of Vein Ripper skyrocketed from like, $3 to like 50 or something ridiculous. So it could be that the format is not healthy and we just don't know it yet. But if you sleeve up a Pioneer deck and you go play on Magic Online or Magic Arena, then you can expect to have mostly a good time. It is sad that right immediately after the Arena devs announced that they had parity on Arena between Pioneer on Arena and Pioneer on Magic Online or Pioneer in paper, this new Scapeshift deck got printed, and the card Crumbling Vestige, which is legal in Pioneer but had never been played in a major event before, is now seeing play. So now you can't play all the decks in Pioneer on Arena anymore as printed, but hopefully they add that one. Yeah,
to clarify for those of you out there, for a while, Arena had a format called Explorer, which was its equivalent of Pioneer, but it just didn't have all of the cards that were available. So it was just like, hey, is the card legal in Pioneer and has been put on Arena? Then it's legal in the Explorer format. And for a while, they were adding more and more cards to try and get it up to a Pioneer equivalent where every deck that has any sort of representation could be played. And then recently they did that, and then now it is not so again.
Yep.
Love Pioneer. Would love to see some more competitive events for it.
Yeah.
Play Lotus Field.
Lotus Field is one of the reasons Pioneer is a great format. That can't exist elsewhere. It's fantastic.
Has it ever been tried in a format like Modern, which is our next format? Modern is everything that has been printed in the quote new border, right? Everything from 8th edition onward.
That is correct.
Yes. To answer your question about has anyone tried to build Lotus Field in Modern?
Has anyone else tried to build Lotus Field in Modern?
It is yes, and it is every bit as degenerate as you hoped it would be. In Modern, you have access to Twiddle. So in Pioneer, you rely on Hidden Strings, which is also played in the Modern version as well. Hidden Strings is 2 mana, untap 2 permanents. Twiddle is 1 mana, untap 1. And so when that was in the format at the same time as the One Ring, I got to play the One Ring and Lotus Field, untap all of those over and over and over again, draw your whole deck, and eventually win with Thassa's Oracle. And as soon as I built that, they banned the One Ring. The deck still exists. Thassa's Oracle is still a win condition. You can still obviously do a lot of things with Twiddle Storm and with Twiddle and a Lotus Field, but without the infinite card draw that the One Ring provided, then it's not nearly as good as it was.
I love Modern. Modern has been fantastic for a while. The Modern Horizon sets have caused Modern to rotate a little bit, and you'll see a lot more change in what should be an Eternal format. Not here to voice an opinion on that.
Right. I do want to clarify, because I a lot of these a lot of people I think that are listening to this will not know what we mean by some of these things. So you're saying because Modern is a non-rotating format. It's just, new sets are added into it, but similar to Pioneer, you could kind of rely on, I've built this deck. This is a deck that may get additions to it, but I can kind of stick with this deck, this archetype, whatever will stick around. But then when they started to do Modern Horizon sets, which introduced cards directly into the format, those cards were so powerful that it changed the shape of the format, and that suddenly the best decks all involved those cards, right?
Absolutely. I was playing Modern, and they unbanned Wild Nacatl, a 1 mana 3/3 asterisk. It needs help to become a 3/3, and that card was banned because it was too powerful. And when they unbanned it, we thought they were crazy. And now with the Modern Horizon sets, you've got cards that are so powerful that is a humorous statement. But like 10 years ago, you could play like Amulet Titan, and now you can still play Amulet Titan, but only because the deck is very difficult to play and nobody understands what they're doing.
The best deck in the format is Boros, and I think I saw someone do an accounting of like the Goldfish list for the Boros deck, and like 32 of the cards are from Modern Horizons X formats. And when you add that to the mana base, like there's really not much else there.
Yeah, they did ban 3 cards out of Boros the last ban cycle, hitting Amped Raptor, Jengantha, and the One Ring, and it is still the number 1 best deck in the format, representing 15% of the format.
I forgot they banned Jegantha. Poor Jegantha. What did it ever do to anyone other than be in literal every deck? I remember going to RCQs, and if your opponent didn't reveal a Jegantha,
you have more information.
You got more information than when they did, because there was like only one deck in the format that wasn't playing it or something.
But I do want to. So you said it's still the best deck in the format at 15%, right?
Correct.
And what was the percent for VV Cauldron in Standard?
30%.
Okay. So regardless of like what cards need to be used, how balanced do you feel this format is?
The format's pretty healthy. They gave us a few unbans as well, and once we got rid of Breach in Modern, the format feels great.
Oh yeah, that was the other thing. They banned Breach from my Twiddle Storm deck as well. They just really went to town on my deck. I know how you feel.
Yeah, Breach should have been gone a long time ago. I think that the card was not meant for Modern, But right now, the
What was that card meant for?
I think that card was meant for 100 card formats.
I think it was also a mistake for those formats, but
Excellent.
that's still a different conversation. I'm just like, I'm curious as to what the thought process was, like really what the intent was for that, because I don't think Ikoria. No, wait, not Ikoria, right? Theros.
TBD, yeah.
Yes. I want to say they weren't as commander focused at that point, but that we can talk about that on a different episode. Breach was banned. Format healthy?
Format's relatively healthy. The intention of bringing back Faithless Looting to maybe revitalize Dredge fed more into the Grixis Reanimator, 4-color Reanimator. The same plague that hits some of the other formats still has Psychic Frog, and it's there's some powerful stuff, but the Splinter Twin used to be the determining factor of this is a turn 4 format. They brought it back, and with all of the 0-mana interaction, Splinter Twin is not playable, and it's really a lot of turn 2 format stuff going on between Neoform, Titan, Reanimator, Ruby Storm, Belcher. Like, the format is very quick, but it has the turn 0 or the 0-mana interaction to handle that.
Mm-hmm. So by a turn 2 format, do you mean most decks have the potential to win on that turn, or is that the average turn that games are actually ending?
Of the 5, only one of them doesn't actually end the game on that turn. But Neoform, Titan, Ruby Storm, and Belcher can all end the game then. Reanimator figuratively ends the game because once you get Arcana Tracks out, the game is over. You just have to sit there and take it control style.
Right.
Modern was a scary format for me. It's a format that I've never really been able to get into, because I started as an arena baby. I played Standard. That was my gateway to Magic. And Pioneer didn't really exist. It wasn't super supported. So Modern was the next step after Standard. And you looked at the Goldfish lists for Modern, and there were like 20 different decks, and I have no idea what in the name of God any of them are doing. And I don't want to go sit down in front of someone who's invested and franchised in the game and have them have to explain to me what every single card in their deck does. And so to me, like, Modern has improved recently in some ways because the Modern Horizons cards have homogenized the format. So now I don't need to worry about 20 different decks. There's only like 5 decks that I need to worry about. However, my experience has been bad because every time I've tried to foray into the format, I've done it twice. First time I built Rhinos, and they banned Fury, and they banned the Cascade card. What was the name? Violent Outburst, the instant speed Cascade card. Yeah. So that deck got banned as soon as I assembled it, and then they did the same damn thing to Twiddlestorm. So I'm kind of like that meme with the pink goo in the box. It just like creeps out. Maybe I'll try this, and then it just gets slapped in the face, and it goes back in, and the box is like much thicker than it was in the first panel. There's never again. That's kind of how I feel about Modern.
All right. So yeah, Pioneer, don't choose the decks that Schulz is playing. Modern, don't go with the ones that Airball's playing.
Yep.
Modern never really caught on for me because even though I started playing right around the time right around 8th edition, which should have given me a lot of nostalgia for cards, I was not playing competitively at that time, so I'm not really familiar with a lot of the cards from the earlier era. And then as I was growing up, the price point was a little high for me, and Modern was not a popular thing until later.
I mean, you're underselling it. A little high. Modern is appallingly expensive right now.
Well, right now, yes, but
and even back then it was expensive.
Right.
But now that was something you could justify when the format was stable.
Right.
But now that it rotates about once a year whenever a new Modern Horizons set comes out, you can't be as secure in your investment anymore. Like Ragavans used to be $70 a pop.
Yeah.
Now the card is practically unplayable.
Thanks, Commander, for keeping that price at least half of what it was before. We shall continue farther back into Magic's legacy. Let's talk about Legacy.
Or is the soapbox?
Yeah, we have.
We'll talk about Legacy because Wizards sure as hell doesn't want to.
Yeah, yeah. So Legacy is again 60 card constructed 1v1 Magic, but what is the actual constraint on this, Schulz?
It's everything that's legal in Vintage that hasn't been banned. So there are. Vintage is everything's legal plus restrictions. Legacy is everything's legal but bans.
Okay, yeah. So all legal sets are all of Magic Forever, but it maintains and updates a ban list to theoretically balance the format.
To theoretically balance the format. I like how you worded that.
I know a little bit about Legacy.
Legacy does include Commander special cards too. So where
because it literally is everything that's been printed. So like regardless of what the product is for. So it's like Jumpstart cards are legal, Commander cards are legal, stuff like that.
Silver bordered unset cards are not legal, but like those weren't supposed to be. It's everything that was designed as a Magic card is legal in the format. You get some strange interactions and some negative interactions with things like Initiative or Will of the Council, because it's cards designed for multiplayer formats don't always play the same way in two-player formats.
The first Commander products were printed in like 2011. I think is the first year of made for Commander. I think
That sounds right. I could see 10, but 11 sounds right.
So were there any thoughts like from the Legacy community at that point where they're like, we've never really encountered this before?
Back then, the cards that were coming on were things like Flusterstorm and Scavenging Ooze. And so those were not crazy cards. They weren't deck-defining bombs. They were interaction against decks that had very little interaction. So I think initially there wasn't this outcry that we see now where, you know, people want to draw the line in the sand of any card that wasn't printed into modern or into regular standard legal set is not legal in Legacy. And I've tried for that too. I'm not innocent of that, but there's a lot more of that now than there was back then. The cards that are coming out for Commander have a higher impact on today's Legacy.
So Legacy recently was a supported like Magic format. If you went to a tournament or a Team Trios event, you could expect to see some Legacy be played. Recently, Wizards decided that's no longer going to be the case. Legacy is going to be kind of left for the community to moderate with Wizards sign off occasionally, right?
Was there an official announcement? If there was, I missed it. I knew that there was no way to get through to the Pro Tour through Legacy except via...
That's what I mean. There's no competitive play support from Wizards for Legacy.
Yeah, I think we do need to be more direct on that.
Sure.
Because like we have a lot of information and are tuned in a lot more to all of this than I think the average listener. So to be clear, Legacy is still a Wizards, an official Wizards format. It is just quote not supported because they are no longer having like events for it, right? It is just not appearing at official Wizards events. Yeah.
This is also the first format we've discussed where the reserve list becomes a thing.
There are reserved list cards, but it is the mana base plus the last two Modern Horizon sets.
Oh, you mean that is the state of the format as long as you have the mana base and the...
Yeah. So if Commander players would get off our lands, that'd be great. If you're putting dual lands in your Commander decks, more power to you. I think that's fun. Getting to play with the old cards is a blast. A lot of the Magic's history is captured there. one of the quotes from one of the more recent banned and restricted lists is, ultimately, Eternal formats are where players go to put time into collecting the cards for their decks. And if you go to Eternal Weekend or Steel City Spectaculars, where you see Eternal Gamers, Legacy and Vintage, those decks are beautiful. You've got beta basics, you've got beta duels, you've got fully foiled, all old border. It is spectacular to see. It is an art show.
Yeah, and then there's Schultz's decks, which literally smell like mold.
Whoa. They're double sleeved.
They have to be. Otherwise, they don't retain their shape, right?
That's still art, you know? That's you're not going to see another deck like it.
It is carefully curated.
Very gingerly curated, yeah. For those who don't know, Schultz's deck was subject to a flood, and the cards don't all have the same integrity that they used to.
But still sleeve playable.
They are sleeve playable, but the format right now is not great. It's been not great for about 3 years. So the Wizards supported asterisk. I thought you were making fun of the lack of interest in maintaining a healthy and competitive format, not the lack of competitive play and route to the Pro Tour.
So the only thing that I know about Legacy really is what I hear you complain about and what I see people complain about on Twitter and Blue Sky. And my understanding with Grief and Reanimator strategies in Legacy is that they were dominant, and Wizards has a community panel that they consult for whether changes need to be made to the format or not. And apparently that panel said, yeah, please, for the love of God, ban Grief, like this needs to go. And they didn't do it for like another several months after that.
Yeah. A year ago in August, they banned Grief. It needed to go in March. That's when that conversation happened. And Frog had just come out. And
Psychic Frog.
Yeah, so they knew Psychic Frog and Grief both had to go coming into last August. And so they banned Grief, didn't ban Frog, got Frog next December. And so we're coming in, and then March, they said, okay, Blue-Black Reanimator after 2 years is still the most dominant deck. We're going to ban Troll of Khazad-dûm because that is the reanimate target that is making this deck unfair.
I totally forgot about that. Troll of Khazad-dûm, too powerful for Legacy.
And there's a strategy where you can, Death Shadow your way in through early reanimate. It's a creature that puts itself, you can cheat on land count. There's strategy to it. It's great. It's hard to block. It's hard to interact with. But it's a creature. And so this past ban list, we were all kind of looking for, something big. Right now, top 5 decks in Legacy are Blue-Black Reanimator, Dimir Tempo, Mono Red Prison, Mystic Forge, Sneak and Show, and Oops All Spells. Blue-Black Reanimator is 26% of the meta. And then the next deck down is 6.6%. The pivot plan for the number 1 premier deck in the format is to swap out 8 cards and pivot into the second best deck in the format. The Entomb package is so tight that it is hard to interact with, and call outs or things they had. Well, the Entomb package allows for things in toolboxes like Inkwell Leviathan, which was cut from Legacy Cube 8 years ago. So not even in Cube is that a playable card anymore by today's standards. So we've kind of lost touch with what is a healthy format, and it could be suffering from the Pioneer problem of there's no competitive nature. So, give it to the birds. You can still play Nadu in Legacy, modern players.
Ooh. And
there's enough interaction there that's not a problem.
I think it's funny that you say that, this format is wildly out of balance and has been so for years because there's been no competitive driving force behind it, while we have just said, hey, Pioneer is super well balanced in a great format because maybe there's no competitive drive towards it. which I think both are fair, but like if you look at that on paper, it's like, wait, what?
Legacy players are crazy. I'm one of them, so I'm allowed to say it. Nobody else in the comments is. But we love our cards so much, we've created sub-formats of Legacy to play that we enjoy. So there's Legacy Pre-War, which is Pre-War of the Spark. That's your cutoff. So everything printed War of the Spark and afterwards isn't legal. And that's a great format.
Why that cutoff?
No Teferis, no Okos. Right around the time that Arena came out. But everything was pretty healthy back then. And they've evolved in pre-modern. I'm not sure if it's on your list or not.
It is.
Okay. That is another, subset legacy of it's another art piece. It's beautiful.
Right. Pre-modern being everything before 8th edition, right?
So there's a lot of fun to be had in Legacy. There's a couple of things that need to be fixed. There's talk of a format panel like they've got out in Pauper, but we have not yet settled in on that.
Gotcha.
I am now a fan.
So it is similar to what Commander had, and still similar to what it has now, where it's community members that are actually the ones either making decisions directly, or like Wizards actually listens to them on decisions for what to be done about the format. And Pauper also has something like this, and now Legacy hopefully is headed that way.
It sounds like that is the route it's going to go. The ban and restricted this past time was disappointing to most everybody I've heard. And then they pushed it past Eternal Weekend too. So the next BNR was going to be right before Eternal Weekend. And they said, well, we're not going to fix it then either. So for Eternal Weekend, the biggest Eternal Legacy event of the year, we are stuck with the same format that we've had issues with since March of 2024. But for a format, it is diverse. There's a lot of people who have their niche decks. If you are good at a deck, you can play it into any meta and still perform. There's a couple of Goblins players that are hanging in there, and Eli is just a master. He'll submit a list, says, oh yeah, I just 5-0'd with this twice in a row. It's like Aether Vial Goblins in the Oops All Spells meta, like the deck that wins on turn 1. You beat it with an Aether Vial, and it's fantastic to see.
This makes me think of one thing that is very important. If there's one nice thing to say about Legacy, I know it's kind of in shambles right now. Anecdotally, Legacy players are the nicest Magic players I have ever met in any context, because they are just there happy to be playing the cards that they have. They're happy to be playing the format that they love. And there's usually not a whole hell of a lot on the line, right? It's not like an RCQ. Usually they're just genuinely very nice and happy to be playing the game.
The Legacy online community, especially so, it is amazing. I met Anu in GP Easter. I met Max Torsion there. These are people who I've seen every week in the challenge. We know each other. Newton, I haven't met him in person, but like, I'm following these people. They're having kids. Like, I'm invested in other people's lives. They are fantastic. It is definitely a different vibe than many of the other formats.
Okay, so it sounds like there's the community is great. There's like some real genuine love for it. A lot of ways, like expressing your deck through yourself through your deck and stuff like that. The biggest thing that it's missing is some better curation from Wizards, or hopefully a community panel, something like that.
Yeah, the rate at cards are being printed, and then the power level of, there's a card, Sire of Insanity. Your opponent discards their hand. That's not played anymore because your opponent discarding their starting 7 isn't powerful enough. You win fewer games doing that than you do reanimating Atraxa. And there's now we've got to figure out where we want things to be. And there was always a perception that Legacy is a turn 1 format. And that's not true. For the last decade, I've been keeping, 7 land hands, and you know which deck, but my plan was to play out a land drop for the first 4 turns, and my opponent couldn't beat that. And like, there's a happy medium somewhere.
Okay. Well, speaking of format panels, our next format is Pauper. So this is again 60 card 1v1 constructed, but it is just the only cards that are legal are cards that have been printed at common, right?
At some point on common, there is a couple of cards that have never been printed in paper at common, but have been printed online in common, and they do count.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, it is. I think there's a little bit extra restriction as well. So like if it's been printed at common online for something, that is legal, but not if it's been printed at common in, I don't remember. But yes, the general idea is, has it been printed at common at some point somewhere? Legal in the format. Do either of you have much experience with this format?
I built a Pauper pod so that way we could sit around and play. It was a great way to introduce people to decks. With the new bans getting rid of Monastery Swift Spear, finally, that downshift in rarity was, a little bit much. And then unbanning, there's a lot of powerful things you can do. You've got actual factual storm, mostly Chatterstorm,
right?
And then you've got all of the Tron lands are legal. You've got Lotus Petals. Like, for the initial buy-in for Pauper Burn was like 11 cards different than Legacy Burn. Like, the decks are good,
right?
It's a lot of fun, and it is core Magic. It's less bomby. It's more synergy. It's a lot of fun.
This is a format that I have I have very high on my list to just get into myself when I have time to do so. Because everything I've ever seen about it has been really positive. Just at its base, things can only be so broken if they are at common. If everything is a common, but there is enough stuff that's been printed to make it interesting, like what you've mentioned, Schulz. There's some good diversity in the format. Then you have this community run panel that is very on top of things, that is doing exactly what you'd want to see in some other formats, where they're keeping an eye on events and the metas and being very thoughtful about bans and things. I think it helps a lot that Gavin Verhey is on that panel and cares very much about the format. But I think no matter what, if you have a format panel, it will be filled with those types of people. I also just really want to play Force Spike, so that's a big draw for me.
You got to film it. If you ever do play Pauper, there's a Blue Black Fairies list that is, 11 cards different than your Pioneer deck. It is so micro actions where everything matters. It would be so fun to watch.
I don't know anything about Pauper.
Would you be interested, just with the information that you have of the few minutes we've spoken about it here? And let's assume that they're also that it is also a competitive format.
Make it a competitive format and we'll talk.
Okay.
Until it is, no. Because the general way that I enjoy playing Magic is at like competitive REL, RCQs, stuff on the line. And I want a little bit more than F&M. And it sounds like the Pauper experience is mostly just showing up for an F&M.
Do you know of events? I want to say that there are consistent events for Pauper, just not actual RCs and things.
Yeah, not RCs towards Pro Tour, but there are big events. A lot of East Coast stuff out in Philly area.
Yeah, I guess out this way there just isn't much on the West Coast. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I hopefully I'll have some time to get into that. It sounds like a lot of fun, and I would try some events for it. Okay. we've made it down to maybe the grandest of the formats. It's vintage. Vintage, where everything is legal. The only bans in the entire format are like unset stuff and dexterity and anti cards. Right? Is there
With one brief exception.
Luris was banned briefly.
Oh, okay. And then what? Everything else is just at most restricted, right?
Correct.
Whew.
Yeah, it turns out that turn 1 Lotus, play Luris, replay Lotus from the bin with the Luris ability is a pretty strong thing to do before they change the companion rule.
Even after the companion rule, it's still a pretty strong thing to do. It is still a mainstay of the format.
The format is fascinating because I don't know about the meta really at all. But the fact that you can play so many of these broken cards together in the same decks that you can't get anywhere else is really enticing. Have you played much in like vintage itself, Schulz?
I've done a little bit. I've done 2 Vegas vintage tournaments. Vintage is the only format where I get to play Fast Bond. So I do. That does hinder me because that is not necessarily the best vintage card. Most of the vintage cards you want to play are not lands. But vintage is fantastic. Justin Gennari has fostered a great stream community, does monthly meta breakdowns, and the meta really is healthy.
I am actually level 1 on Twitter. Yeah.
Really fantastic. But Mono White Initiative and Legacy sucks. And Vintage, kind of fair, because Archon of Cruelty is a wonderful way to stop when your opponent's trying to do workshoppy things. And there's a lot of good tools, and they do police each other, and you'll see it. You know, it'll wax and wane where Mono White Initiative goes up, Dredge comes back, Dredge Hate comes back, PO goes up, and you get different things, especially with like Oath of Druids. There's unique vintage staples that have existed forever that are really fun to see.
Mm-hmm. If you make motions with your arm, don't do them between your mouth and the mic.
I did catch it once
That was hard to watch.
So you say the meta's healthy. It sounds like it shifts as well.
It's definitely cyclic. It's a lot of copy paste meta and winners meta, so there's some bias there as events change through the week. Mm-hmm. But you'll see there's a core group of eternal content creators that have a little bit of sway into the meta. So Bosch and Roll and I Am Actually Level 1 will post a guide or will be doing their testing. And a lot of times those videos will hit just after a major event like the Steel City and going into Eternal Weekend.
Okay. So I think the biggest issue for anybody playing this format is, how do I get those cards?
Well, you don't necessarily have to. A lot of these vintage events are proxy friendly.
Mm-hmm. This is what I was hinting at.
You can also play on MTGO, where a vintage deck costs less than $50.
See, this to me, I think would be my biggest reason to actively play MTGO, because I think for the most part I get whatever I want from Arena. This would be the big one where I'm like, oh, I'd really like to try that, and you cannot do that anywhere else. Is being able to play a format like that and not have to like remortgage the house that I don't own.
Having the cards is fun. Being able to play on MTGO is better. A lot of the people who own the physical cardboard pieces will still bring proxies to the proxy friendly event because it's just a liability, and that makes the events less fun. Moto's great. The challenge is fire. There's a pretty healthy community. They will try and time you out though. So you do want to execute your combos. Little bit less respect there than out in Legacy World, but if you're doing niche fast bondy nonsense.
I mean, if you're playing vintage, then you're probably just decrepit, right? Like it's probably physically hard for some of these people to click the mouse that many times.
Yeah, so the vintage community is ableist and ageist to themselves.
So is Magic Online, if we're
to
fair.
themselves, I guess. Yeah. Okay. But so what I'm getting is vintage, cool format, balanced format, interesting, and maybe more accessible than you realize.
Certainly, yes.
Yeah. Our next format on the list, Penny Dreadful. I only know the most basic of this. I think the premise here is, again, 60 card 1v1. The only cards that are legal are ones that cost a penny on MTGO. Is that right? Or do we know? Because it's okay. We don't need to look this up. This is just, if we don't know what it is, we don't know what it is. But I know the basic idea is the only cards that are legal are a penny. But I think the determining factor on that is Magic Online. It's okay because clearly none of us have ever played this format. It's just I happen to know one bit of it more than Gladiator.
Maybe.
Yeah. So we don't need to go over this for those of you who are active Penny Dreadful players. Same as before, we'd love to know what this is like, what the actual defined rules of the format are. If you feel like it's an interesting format, there's reason to play it, if it's balanced and fun, or if we should stay away from it. Okay, let's go from the one we know, maybe the least about, to one that I think we know the most about. It's Commander.
I've been waiting for this one, and I want to ask you a meta, philosophical question.
Yes.
How do you evaluate the state of Commander? Because all of these other formats have sanctioned events or close to sanctioned events. Mm-hmm. They should have defined metas. People show up and they play, and they have some expectation of what to expect, the rules that you're going to follow. Mm-hmm. Commander's the Wild West. Commander, people play at their kitchen table. They play with house rules. They play with different budget levels. They play with Rule Zero conversations. How is it even possible to talk about the state of Commander?
Because I think at the heart of every conversation for all of these formats is, are players satisfied with what it is? Oh. And we've had an easy bar of, do the competitive events feel balanced? Are the play patterns interesting and satisfying? And while the competitive element may not exist in nearly the same capacity for Commander, I still think at the heart of this is that argument: do the players feel good about it? Because a lot of bans and things in other formats have had a lot of basis in that. On I want to say like the grief bannings, a big driving factor for that was the player bases of those formats going, even if this is not dominating the format, the play patterns for this are so unfun that we do not want this in the game. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I want to say that it wasn't like, a 30% meta share like VV Cauldron. It was just that people hated playing against it so much, and it was still good and playable.
Rakdos Scam, I went to an event and played against it literally every single round.
Yeah, NerdGirl is saying that she believes also that the Cauldron Familiar Witch's Oven combo was banned in Standard for similar reasons. It had existed in the format for a long time, but it was banned for just play pattern reasons. And so that I think is the thing. And it's just typically those things align of players are happy when formats are balanced. Players are happy when competitions feel interesting and fair. And so if we want to address what the state of Commander is, are the players happy?
But I guess what I'm saying is that I don't know that Commander exists in a way that can be evaluated, because everyone has their own play group. Everyone has their own tolerances for particular play patterns. And it's not like you're going to play against Cat Oven over and over and over again because that meta doesn't exist. You're not playing super competitively. People are trying to have fun. And so the game that you play at your kitchen table is different than the game that we play on the show, is different than the game that people play at conventions. And so how do you tell whether people are happy with the format when the format doesn't really exist?
I think it's unfair to go that far to say that the format doesn't exist. It is very broad. And so we can only really assess the things that do exist, the things that are the same across all of those different games that can happen under the umbrella of Commander. And so if we look at some of the like criteria we use for other formats, of like, you know, let's look at like Modern, where we were saying, hey, a bunch of new stuff is getting printed and it feels like those are the only cards that you can play. And that is that affects the way that players feel about the format. In Commander, there is a similar feeling that like, oh, well, since all of these products are all printed into Commander, it's hard to keep up with things, and a lot of players are feeling fatigue from that. There's also, you know, do games feel balanced? And a lot of that is on the players themselves, but it doesn't mean that it's still a factor that players are going to keep to take into account. So there's like the bracket system that is a tool that's being developed to make games more fair. I think you are very right to say that it is hard to define this, but I think we can give it a fair shot with what we have available.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's okay. I think the format is doing okay. They have not had a lot of things that need to be banned. That's a plus, right? I think in a format where you have such a wide card pool that's available, there are a lot of things that can become that have the potential to become super broken. But there's not been anything since like Nadu that anyone has been like, this has got to go, because it is causing so many problems with games across the board. I think also the fact that this has not been supported as a competitive format, which I think is kind of the right choice, because it would change the mindset for players, especially if it was like, you know, doing tournaments throughout different brackets, and not just CDH or something like that, because then players would be assessing their games more closely as opposed to a casual mindset. Keeping players in a casual mindset means that you don't feel as bad when things are unbalanced or when games don't go the way that you're looking for. I think that's where I would start with this.
No, that sounds fair. I think you're definitely right on that. The first thing I did when I found out what the bracket system was, that my cards were in the bracket 3s and 4s, I built the most broken bracket 2 deck I could find just to show them what's up. That deck has never gotten sleeved up. That is not the intention. Players self-policing and having that casual fun is, I think, what is good. I think that the whole Breacher ban and the Leovold ban and the Nadu ban and, you know, all the other 3 mana blue cards that they decided to kill from the format have led to some health. I wouldn't mind seeing unbans at certain times. I don't know what the format panel's opinions are on those, but shaking up the format would be fun.
We've gotten some. Technically, we had cards that you could not play in Commander that have now become cards you can play in Commander. They moved cards off the ban list and put them onto the Game Changer list, and I think that is 75% of an unban.
Yeah, but they don't let you play more than one land per turn. I want my prime time. I want my fast bond.
You have exploration that is legal, and you have
There's one. That's one. You only get one.
you have burgeoning. You have those are both at 1 mana. What do you want unbanned? Besides, I mean, like I think prime time could come off, but
Fast bond.
that's.
I'm not saying it'd make the format better. I'm just saying that's what I want to do. How's that the format? It's fine. Unbanned fast bond. Let's see how it looks then.
So both of you mentioned players self-policing the format as a critical factor in the state of the format.
Yeah.
And that's something I struggle with when I wonder whether Commander is healthy or not. Because I think that we, as content creators, people who have a show, are generally pretty spoiled.
Yes.
We play with other content creators who are mostly capable of playing Magic. And they are also in it to have a good time, to make sure that everyone at the table is having fun. And when you're at conventions, the same thing is true. So we tend to get paired with people who are fans of the show. They want to shoot the shit with us. They want to make sure that the game progresses in a way that's fun for everyone.
That's very true.
That is not true for most people who play Magic. I don't have their experience, but I have seen people get extremely tilted or frustrated at their experiences at cons because they go and sit at a commander table and they're randomly paired with other people, and either their deck is too powerful and they get ganged up on, or their deck is not powerful enough and they feel like they never had a chance. And the Rule Zero mechanism to make sure that the game was fair and balanced and everyone was having fun wasn't enforced because there's no one who felt the responsibility to enforce it. People just went and played the game that they expected to have because that's what they played at home. And I worry that if everyone has slightly different pockets of what's expected and what's normal at a commander table, and those things are offensive to people who play in other settings, and you force those people together because this is the one game that we are calling commander, then that's a recipe for conflict and sadness. And that doesn't necessarily surface because these are casual players who aren't terminally online. We don't hear their feedback. All we see is them occasionally being sad and leaving the convention hall unhappy. And so that is why I'm concerned about not being able to evaluate the state of Commander, because we just don't have the data. We can say confidently that the loudest people in the Commander format right now are generally pretty happy with it. But that's not the same as it being healthy. And I don't know how you even begin to tell whether it is. Like the last time they banned anything, there were death threats, right? We're not dealing with like super well-adjusted humanity here a lot of the time. So you have to paint with such a broad stroke when you're talking about a format that's this big and encompasses this many different play patterns, and I'm not really comfortable doing that.
I think that's valid, but I think it is also our responsibility to try to do so.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's a worthwhile question to try to get to the bottom of. I just don't. I have very little faith in our ability to actually do it.
This is our first format that's single card. For all the other formats, you have a guaranteed game plan of your max 4 of in a 60 card deck where you're playing preordained to get there. Here, preordained sees less play. You're digging for cards. You have to use tutors. The bracket system kind of adding that extra layer of, oh, I put all my bears in my bear deck, to, oh, I've got 8 black tutors because I need to hit this one card in order to combo off and beat you. It changes the bracket. So does the singleton inconsistency of Commander by design plus the bracket system make Commander healthy?
I think I can maybe thread this between what the two of you are saying. I almost want to say that you could assess Commander as 5 formats. because each of these brackets has kind of its own identity. If you think about it, especially compared to the other formats that we've discussed before, where it's like, you know, you have bracket 5 of, hey, this is the legacy of Commander. Everything is legal unless we felt it was super broken and had to ban it. You know, bracket 4 is like, has less of an analogy, but it's like, hey, here's everything is available to you, but we're not playing like that. This falls apart very quickly.
It does. But this is the first format where the object of the game is not unambiguously playing to win. And I think that is the root of the problem here that I'm having. Because with the other formats, it's pretty simple to evaluate the state of the format. Do players have diverse tools to achieve their objective to win the game? And is it possible to, like, for different strategies to keep other players' strategies of doing that in check? Here, like Commander, most players I play with, the goal is not to win the game. You know, NerdGirl accepted. the goal is to just try to do cool thing at the table. And so maybe that is an important factor here.
That's interesting, because I think your point earlier plays a big part here. I do believe that the average Commander player is playing to win, maybe not with like 100% I will angle shoot and like I'm trying to win in the same way I win a tournament, but I think you are a little bit misled by the people you tend to play with.
Sure.
Because most content creators have that mindset of, I am trying to do an interesting, big, flashy thing, and hopefully I also win. I also think that is how a lot of people are playing at conventions, especially like for the same reasons you said, like, oh, this is person that I know from the internet. I would like to show them the cool thing my deck does. But I don't know if I want to beat them. Ugh. I do believe that the average Commander player is trying to win the game, albeit not as directly as other formats. I will go so far as to say I think a lot of the criteria that you're looking for, we can assess, if not as clearly as other formats, and we would say that they are good. The variety of decks that can succeed, and I think the success here is not necessarily winning, but feeling like you've played a satisfying game, I think is very high. I think that if you look at like the most played decks on EDH Rec or something, that there's a lot of variety there. There's a lot of new cards that are being printed that are reasonable includes, but it is rare that you get something that is like, this is an all-timer staple that, you know, is an auto include for every deck forever. You're not getting cards that super break the format. You even see like a good variety in tournament Commander. And I think overall players are still interested. Players are still overall happy with the games that they're playing. And the factors that cause them to not be happy with it are not based in like the cards or, you know, choices you can make in the format.
If the majority of players are playing to win, every other format, 50% of the players are happy, trying to win. Here, 25% of the players are happy. What gives?
So here's the thing. 25% of the players win any given game of Commander, but a lot of those winners in Commander, if you put them in a 1v1 format, would not win. So their chances of winning a game of Commander are higher than in a 1v1 game.
Right, yeah, their chances of winning a Magic the Gathering game, it's better to keep them
just because of the sheer variance of the format, right?
Yes.
Like everyone's deck can pop off. Like someone is going to draw turn 1 Soul Ring some of the time, and their opponents are going to stumble and they're going to win. The more consistent the decks get, which is the case in all the other constructed formats where you have 60 cards and 4 copies of each, the harder it becomes for lower skill players to win the game. And people are happy when those players win occasionally. And that just happens more in Commander.
Players are happier winning in 60 card 1v1 than they are in Commander. You have a lot of factors that can... players walk away happy from a Commander table for more reasons than winning. And that is less likely to happen in 60 card 1v1.
I don't know that I've ever walked away happy from a game that I lost in 60 card format. I don't think that's ever happened. Not sure it's happened in Commander either, but at least I know it hasn't in 60 card.
As someone who genuinely enjoys playing Magic as a whole, and rarely has a bad time in Commander games, it definitely happens to me much more often in 60 card 1v1, and as someone that like is actively trying to have a good time and is usually pretty good at it, it's just a lot easier for me to not feel happy after a game of 60 card, even if it like I can recognize a good game and that will still be satisfying to me, but it's easier for me to find reasons to enjoy myself even when losing in Commander.
Nerd Girls watch me play on Arena, and you know those little surveys they have, like, did you have fun in that match? She's like, why do you always click the unhappy button? I'm just like, do I? I guess I do.
All right, are you all ready for the home stretch?
Let's do it.
All right. Next format is Oathbreaker. This is, I believe I have this correct, this is 60 card singleton with a Planeswalker in the command zone and a signature spell. So you have a Planeswalker and a spell in the command zone. The spell does not return to the command zone, but the Planeswalker does. I have played a little bit of this format. I am confident that Airball has never played this format. Schulz, have you played this at all?
I showed up to play it once, but not everybody understood the rules. So we had a mishmash of different commanders, planeswalkers, and spells in zones that they should not have been in. And it didn't work out great.
Yeah, I also believe that this is a format that is designed to be from 2 to 4 players. It is not specifically intended to be any one of those, but I may be wrong on that. It is definitely a 4-player format. I think it's interesting. I think, you know, it makes for tighter gameplay because you've dropped from 100 cards to 60 cards. You have more reliability in what you can do because you also have 2 cards in the command zone. And I think there's a lot of potential for the format to be broken. There's just not a lot of incentive for people to play it. It's a Commander spinoff. If you are enjoying playing it and that is your format, great. That's the most important thing for playing Magic, that you are having a good time and you are playing Magic. But it is really, really hard to commit to a Commander-like format and have enough people playing it for it to be interesting. And I think that is where this fails.
I would believe that. The concept is appealing because I am not interested in creatures most of the time. And Commander being based around creatures does kind of fail me there. So this is interesting. This was right around Tiny Leaders, I think, came out. I built one of these and I never got to play it. I would, but I think you're right.
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything you said.
Cool. Moving on from there, Standard Brawl.
I agree with what you said on this one as well.
Yeah, Standard Brawl. It's again 60 card singleton, but 60 card singleton, legendary creature in the command zone, 30 life, I want to say. And then only cards that are currently standard legal. I have never played this format.
Did they update that to match the ban, like to match the rotation window, or is that still on a 2-year rotation? I don't even know anymore.
I want to say that the definition of the format is standard legal.
Okay.
So I think it is updated to that. This and well, I'll just pair this with the next format as well. Just regular Brawl, so standard Brawl and Brawl are much more popular than I realized on Arena. These are theoretically also paper playable formats. They once made decks for these and tried to support it as a paper format for a half a second. And I've said before that I think that standard Commander should be a thing, just as like maybe a more accessible and rotating version of Commander, to help to bridge the gap of Commander players to standard. But once again, for me, the problem is these are Commander spin-off formats. If I can't consistently get a game going of this format, it's hard for me to commit to it.
Yeah, I wonder, here's a question for the comments, I guess, if you're still with us at this point and you happen to be a Brawl player. Do you play Brawl on Arena because you like the format? Or do you play Brawl because it is the closest thing that exists to Commander, the format you actually like, on Arena? Because I strongly suspect it's the latter. I think if they put Commander on Arena tomorrow, Brawl numbers would just drop precipitously. It would almost certainly not be played.
I think you have a good point there.
I think you have a very good point. I think if they did Brawl or Commander on Arena, would it be straight up 4-player, or would it be the dual Commander like we see on?
Yeah, well, I think we're assuming that it's Commander 4-player as is. If that existed on Arena, then Brawl would go.
Yeah, really the question I'm asking is the apparent popularity of Brawl on Arena because the format itself is good and people enjoy it, or is it because it is the closest thing to the thing they actually want, which just isn't available?
No, after Melee, I think Brawl is best.
I think you're going to have a lot of people saying you're very wrong about that.
Melee's best, so you fight me.
Also, you're calling it Melee, so I can't take you seriously.
Yeah, it's hard to respect that.
Yeah. Our next format is Alchemy.
Calling it Alchemy, I can't respect that.
Yeah, Alchemy. So this is, I don't actually know what the constraints specifically are for this format. It is Arena only. The defining factor is it gets cards that are printed specifically for the format that are often designs that could not be accomplished in paper cleanly.
Originally, Alchemy was presented as, this was during the Galvanic Iteration, All Runs Epiphany meta, and everyone was super tired of just multiple turn spells in Standard and not having bans happen frequently enough. And this was presented as, hey, this is a way where we can shake up the format, we can nerf cards, we can basically give you a fresher Standard. And that did not happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, like at all, right?
Like almost ever. Like they were incredibly reluctant to nerf cards in Alchemy or buff cards in Alchemy. And the other thing that they did that was really the death knell for it, as far as I'm concerned, is printing Lord of the Rings into it. Because you had a format that only had the most 2 recent years of cards, so it was Standard. But here's the one-rated Orcish Bowmasters and a bunch of other like printed straight to Alchemy cards, and it didn't resemble Standard in any meaningful way at all by the time they were done with it. Couple that with the fact that now it doesn't even follow the Standard rotation cadence anymore either, where Alchemy rotates every 2 years instead of 3.
Oh,
and yeah, it's a mess.
But other than that,
yeah, I don't have anything positive to say about Alchemy other than its original vision as presented was a good one.
Yes, that does make me very sad, because when I just knew what the concept was, I was super pumped for it, because I like a constantly changing format, like even more than just a rotating one. I like one that is actively like curated over and over and over again. So because I like having a 1v1 format that I can brew in, and because of the age of, you know, the internet and information, formats get solved so quickly. I was like, oh, this is perfect. That just isn't possible if they're constantly adjusting, like, best card, best deck, boom, nerfed. Best card, best deck, nerfed. I'm like, that's going to be so much fun for someone that is willing to invest in a format like that, and then it just never happened. So yeah.
I think they were kind of also caught between a rock and a hard place, because the way the arena economy works made it incredibly painful for them to nerf cards, because when they nerfed cards in Alchemy, you didn't get your wild cards back. When they ban a card in Standard, if you had 4 copies of that rare, you get 4 rare wild cards back. If they nerf a card to unplayability in Alchemy, you get nothing.
Yeah.
And so when they did nerf things, people got very hot and bothered about not getting compensated. And so they just didn't. And this is what you're left with.
Yeah. It's very sad what could have been. Our next format is Pauper Commander. Pauper Commander is only commons in the 99. An uncommon creature in the command zone, does not need to be legendary. And I believe you start at 30 life with, I think 13 commander damage is lethal. Something like that. Yeah.
Sounds right to me.
Yeah, either of you ever played it?
Once on last week's episode. I don't know when this airs, but
yeah, we also did not play it correctly when we played it the one time on the show, which I don't know when that episode comes out, but yeah. I think this one's really interesting to me, again, for the same reason of it seems like a format that's wide open and would be super interesting to brew for. But rinse and repeat, it is a Commander spinoff. Hard for me to commit to it because I don't know when I would ever get to play it. That's it.
Cool in principle. Nice, accessible, cheap. It's nice not having it to have a legendary in the command zone.
Yeah, that's I think the thing that makes me the most interested, because you have so many choices, and that you just couldn't have in any other format. But following that is Dual Commander. This is specifically 1v1 Commander. So it's just 1v1 singleton legendary creature in the command zone, and I think it's a 30 life as well. This format exists on Magic Online and is pretty popular,
particularly in Europe, as I understand. Dual Commander is very popular over there. It appeals to me greatly. I really like the 1v1 nature of it. My least favorite thing about Commander is the social politicking of having 4 players. It's very refreshing to just be able to say, oh, you are my enemy. I am going to kick your ass. And that is expected, and you will not be sad when I do it.
Right. And in whatever method it is too.
Right.
Like you lose a lot of the stigma for like, oh, mass land destruction. How could you? And it's like, well, it's just one person. I'm going to kill you.
Yep.
love it.
Yeah. Have you played it at all, Mr. MTGO?
I have. It's great. You'll see a lot of the same decks. White is way more powerful in 1v1 than it is in 4-player.
Philia is absurd. Like Philia is messed up.
I've seen because I'll see like Fire Shoes' posts on like, you know, dual commander events on MTGO and the lists there, and I'm like, oh wow, this meta is very different from Commander. Like, because I see a lot of Philia. I've seen some like Cloud, the new mono white Cloud decks.
Lear is a big one.
Lear, yeah.
Vivi, of course.
Yeah, but I think this gives some life to commanders that you wouldn't be quite so successful, not counting BB, in 4-player Commander.
Yeah, I think if you are a Commander player who is sad that 1-for-1 removal is the type of card you like to play and is just not playable in a 4-player format, well, now it is. Now it doesn't put you behind any cards. You get to play a grindy, mid-rangey game against one opponent.
Yeah. I I don't know if this is actually what the games are like, but what I hear a lot for players that really like Commander, especially high-powered Commander, that don't like other competitive formats, like these will be like CEDH players, and I'm like, this just makes sense to me. You're a very good Magic player, fundamentally. I feel like you would excel in 1v1 much more than the high variance CEDH. And they're like, maybe that's true, but those formats don't scratch the same itch of super complex. Like I have 100 different cards in my deck, and the different ways that can interact with each other and my opponent is really the thing that draws me to this. And I can't get that feeling in other 60 card formats. I'm like, I wonder if Dual Commander is just a better place for them, where you still get that feeling, but you're more rewarded for being the better player.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the only thing that makes me maybe doubt that is I don't know that those are the optimal decks, because for a Commander 4 player, for like CEDH, you are trying to assemble this very, very complex win using these pieces throughout all of your deck, where a combo win is just the best way to do it. In Dual Commander, I think you could get away with just, here's my aggro deck.
You can. Absolutely. Right. Like Ophelia does that, but there's also like Aminatou Esper, which has a bunch of different combo lines that win the game on the spot. Like almost anything is playable in Dual Commander, like, whether you're a combo player, aggro player, mid-range. It's got all of the positive high variance side of Commander, but with like a lack of all the political elements to it. I think it's great.
Cool. This one has also been very high on my list to give a genuine try to when I have time to add more formats to my plate.
If you don't like Ristic Study, do I have a format for you?
Oh, yeah, it's banned, isn't it? Or it's just also bad,
just unplayable,
yeah,
right?
But there's something that I was like, oh yeah, that's banned in that format, that I was like, oh, that's great, but I don't remember what it is. Anyway, we are down to our final three, of which I don't think we'll have much to say. How about old school 93, 94?
That is artistic. I love it. It's beautiful. If you ever catch it, go ahead and watch it. Everything is the most beautiful card you've ever seen.
Because like this format is just 60 card 1v1, but only cards from those years, which is just the.
Yep.
What sets are actually in that? Do you know? Is it only like alpha beta, or is there like one or two of the expansions that ended up in those years?
It might be unlimited too. I don't know, but it is original printing. So you can't use a reprint Commander card. It has to be the preferred edition of those cards. And that makes me very happy.
That does make the entry point a little rougher, but
yeah, the price point on that then is steep.
Yeah, but like, that there's some very interesting appeal to it, to like see what OG Magic was like, but with today's mindset. Because people weren't optimizing when this game first came out. They were barely collecting the things that they needed to be able to play this way. So
I don't know that you could have even looked up a list of all the legal cards.
Right.
Like
I don't think you could, because that was at least Richard Garfield's like original intent was, we don't really want a list of these cards because we want people to be surprised when they're playing against stuff or like opening a thing.
Yep. So Scryfall hates Richard Garfield.
Right.
No, the only one rule and true as Richard Garfield intended.
Yes. All right. Pre-modern. So we touched on this a little bit earlier with Legacy and Legacy spinoffs. So this is the only sets that are legal are ones that were printed before 8th edition, which is the cutoff for modern. And then does it hold its own ban list, or does it have like the Legacy ban list, or do you know?
I believe it has its own community panel ban list. I have not played. I've watched a bunch. It is fantastic to watch. There's a lot of innovation for a format that has not had a ban since I've been aware of it. Like it is really cool seeing it's got that same vintage waxing and waning of different metas, but there's like core cards that exist that, they'll see EDH play, like Snap, and it's just like, oh, yeah, okay, that's a card. And it's fun to watch. It doesn't have the 93, 94 restriction, so it's not as pretty, but it's a lot of the classic cards that have been power crept out of playability.
I feel like this format, again, what words am I saying? It benefits a lot from having a small player base that is very dedicated. So it's hard to end up with like significant meta decks because they're just, it's not like, oh man, that pre-modern event that happened, like I don't even know what to reference as a playable deck, goblins or whatever, they like won it, and now everybody in pre-modern is playing goblins like that. I feel like that just doesn't happen, and there's a lot of room to innovate because there are not a lot of people that have that mindset. So it's for really fucking nerdy people, but I would be interested.
Yep. That is one of the things you have. If you're going to play pre-modern, you have to play with other people who play pre-modern, and that's not always the most fun thing to do.
I think my view of it is skewed, but the only people I've ever seen mention pre-modern have been people that I actively would want to play Magic with. But that's probably just because I'm only seeing these posts on like social media, and it's people that I follow that I already know that I like.
Genuinely, me too. It's like Andre Mengucci, and that's it.
Yeah,
I'm just like, I'll play with Mengu.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah. Are we ready for the final one?
I love it that the power level of the format is Black Lotus for Bolt. The fast mana that exists in Vintage used to cast spells that have not been subject to 16 years of substantial power creep is fantastic. So getting the downplay on power level is awesome.
Wait, what is Lotus is legal?
Yeah, you can play with your power 9, but it has to be like regular threats. I think. Maybe Lotus isn't. I thought Moxen were. I thought Moxen were legal on that.
In pre-modern?
They were printed before modern?
I mean, yes, I just assumed that okay. I did not realize that, but sure. I think I just assumed that they would have a similar to Legacy ban list, just maybe a little more lenient, but yeah, we don't have to look these things up.
Yes, we do. In this case we do.
Yeah, ban list is
Lotus is fine.
Wow.
Force of Will is banned.
Can't be countering those Lotuses. Sure. Okay, that is interesting. I think I'm actually slightly less interested in the format at that point. I would want to be playing a lot of the garbage cards that I was playing, like the now garbage at the time were good cards from when I just started playing, but that's weird. I'll have to look into that more. But one left. It's pre-DH. So the definition of this format is all regular Commander rules, but the only legal cards are from before products were printed for Commander, which I believe is 2011. So everything up to the first printing of Commander decks by Wizards of the Coast. So EDH as it was originally intended, blah, blah, blah.
Without all the benefit of actual card design for the format.
Right.
That seems that's too hipster for me. I feel like let's take the format and let's just totally kneecap ourselves, not give ourselves access to the last 10 years of design around a good 4-player experience, and just work with cards that were not intended to work in that way and see all of the negative results of that.
But that's what created the rest of the monstrosity that we have to live with. This is, hey, you know those Magic cards that aren't very good that are sitting in your closet? Yeah. Do you want to play with them? Let's do this. Oh yeah, that's cool. And you get to use cards that aren't viable in a regular constructed format, and you get to play with them. And now if you want to build a deck, you pull up a commander, and the 11 cards that were printed with it are the best cards you can play in that deck.
But I feel like the Commander product also came with some positive templating changes that affected all Magic cards. So you can still, like, even if you play with newer cards that aren't designed for Commander per se, they're at least templated in a way that makes sense and doesn't make you feel bad. It's like the each opponent versus like target opponent kind of thing. Almost every card like lately has this each opponent text on it when you would want it to.
I think that's fair. I think my biggest problem, and I will preface this by saying I've never played this format. I don't think any of us have.
No.
Is I would guess that people playing this format are trying to get the feel of what EDH started as. Because why else would you play this format? But I don't think you can ever get that. I'm sorry. Because its creation was, hey, we're a bunch of like experienced Magic nerds that would like to play this silly thing, on our off time as a way to get to play some of the dumber cards that we could not even get to work in our kitchen table 60 card decks. And even as that started to evolve, people found more and more broken things. But now we just know what the broken stuff is. And I think it is then a mindset that is the only thing that is controlling the format. Like that format would be super breakable, so busted. And I think that's not what people that are playing this are looking for. They're looking for, this feels like original EDH. And you can just get that with whoever. You just have to find people that are in that mindset. It is not the format that's going to get you there.
I thought Oathbreaker was earlier.
Yeah. Oh, are you referencing the fact that for like 5 of the last 10 formats I've said, yeah, this sounds cool. It's a Commander spinoff, and the players don't exist, and the time for me does not exist to commit to something like this?
That's probably funnier. You just said it was super breakable, and
yep, I got it. Well, I think that's the sign that we are just about out of time here. Let me see if I can find the simplest boy question possible. Our boy question, which, by the way, as always, if you comment on any podcast episode with hashtag boy question, we will choose one on every episode and answer it for you. What I've got for you, super simple. Fuck, marry, kill any 3 guilds. So for those of you out there, NerdGirl is saying that we're not doing this the right way. So she is going to pick 3 guilds for each of us.
do we have to agree?
No,
God, no.
Okay, good.
I'm just trying to pick 3 that are all kind of polar opposite. I'm hoping that you guys will kind of do different answers. All right. Selesnya, Rakdos, and Golgari.
Selesnya, Rakdos, and Golgari. I feel like we kind of got softball here, but you all can... Do you have thoughts?
I think Rakdos is easy fuck. I think that they're not Mary material. You don't really want, like, you've seen the art for Ravnica Allegiance, right? You've seen the artwork there. I don't want that every day for the rest of my life, but it does seem like the kind of thing that might be spicy once in a while. So I think fuck for Rakdos makes a lot of sense. What else did we have? We had Selesnya
and Golgari.
And Golgari. I think Golgari is Mary.
Till death do us part? I don't think so.
I think Golgari's the rock, right? It's going to be there for you. You can lean on it for the rest of your life. You always know that it's going to be fair, 1 for 1, and it's never going to do anything that totally surprises you, but it's always going to make you consistently happy.
Oh yeah, I just in my brain it goes on after death.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. You're in support of that.
Yes.
I see.
Agree with the Mary, but
I think the third one is the most difficult. So I'll let you go next, Schulz, if you know what your 3 would be.
oh, I was agreeing for Mary, but I'm
You
I'm
same
getting down with Selesnya. I'm killing Rakdos.
You're killing Rakdos. Okay, so that would mean that Selesnya is fuck for you.
Oh yeah.
Is that because of the rabbits?
Maybe.
Okay. Well,
We call them bunnies, but
I
Boys' night.
so I definitely I thought the obvious one here was marry Selesnya.
That's what I thought.
Because that's like it's super like community and like we're together, like unity, blah blah blah. So would make for like a good partner. And then the other 2 was the one that was like, I think it's a little bit more difficult. I think Rakdos would be a good time, but ultimately I think you have to kill them before they kill you. And
That's part of the good time, is kind of what I'm saying.
But Golgari's into the dirty stuff.
I guess that's true.
So
Golgari's dirtier than Rakdos.
also I feel like the refractory period for Golgari is really quick. They just regrow immediately.
There's probably some regenerate support there.
Right. You're like,
right.
oh, that was great. Okay, round 2. And I'm like,
Hard as a rock.
right. I'm like, I'm is it? I spent all of it on the first try. That's all I got. I stormed off in round 1, and I hope you got there because I definitely did.
Yeah,
I cannot do that again for another week.
the premature preordain.
Yeah. All right. That's it for today. Woo! This has been a long one, and which is not what they say after I is it all over. We'll see you next time.